Imagine Parliament passes a law saying elections will no longer be held, fundamental rights will no longer exist, India will no longer be a democracy. Can Parliament legally do this? The Constitution gives Parliament the power to amend the Constitution. But that power is not unlimited. Understanding constitutional amendment is therefore not just about Article 368. It is about the relationship between Parliament, Constitution, and the Supreme Court. Hello everyone, my name is Rajni Jha. Welcome to Drishti IAS. In today's session, we are going to talk about amendment of Constitution. Let's get started. So the first question is, why does the Constitution need amendment? See, in our Constitution, there are certain provisions which can be changed easily. They are the flexible provisions. And there are certain provisions that cannot be changed easily, and they are the rigid provisions, or that is the rigidity of our Constitution. Now, if the Constitution never changes, it would become outdated. If it changes too easily, then it will become unstable. The stability will be lost. So it is important that there should be provision for amendments in the Constitution. And that's what we will understand today. So what is the constitutional basis for this? The constitutional basis for amendment comes from Article 368. Article 368 provides procedure for amendment and powers of Parliament to amend the Constitution. However, there is an important point here that every amendment does not come under Article 368, and I'll tell you about this. So, not every constitutional amendment is made under Article 368. There are certain amendments that are made like ordinary law. So, they are not under Article 368. Alright. So, when we talk about the Constitution, amending the Constitution, there are three ways. First is by simple majority. Second is by special majority of the Parliament. And third, by special majority and ratification of half of the state. Now, the simple majority one, this one happens like ordinary law. And this does not come under Article 368. The rest two, they are under Article 368. So let's understand them in detail. The first one is by simple majority. This, as I told you, this is not regarded as amendment under Article 368. It is passed like any other ordinary law. And what does it mean? What is the meaning of simple majority? Simple majority means more than 50% of present and voting. Now, this is very important. This definition itself is very important, that simple majority means more than 50% of present and voting. What does that mean? Let's say Lok Sabha has 543 members. Out of these 543 members, only 480 are present today. Today the voting is going to happen and 480 are only present. And out of these, 20 did not vote. So I said, what is simple majority? More than 50% of present and voting. So present are 480, but 20 are not voting. So how many are present are voting? They are 460. So there are only 460 members that are actually voting. So more than half of this would be 230, more than half plus 1. So 231. If I talk about simple majority, there should be 231 votes. And this happens in case of formation of new states, admission or establishment of new states, creation or abolition of legislative councils, salaries of constitutional authorities, 5th schedule, 6th schedule, delimitation of constituencies. So there is a list and you have to go through that list. I am here only to make you understand how these amendments happen. What is simple majority, what is special majority, and when is special majority required, and when is ratification by states is required. The next is by special majority of the Parliament. Now, special majority of the Parliament has 2 points. First, majority of total membership of each house. Second, 2/3 of members present and voting. Let's understand that. So, when I said we want special majority, in this case, 2 conditions must be fulfilled. The first is more than a majority of total membership of the house. So, in the same example, let's say there are 543, right? Total membership 543, and I say on the date of voting there are only 540 people present, right? On the date of voting only 540 people are present, or in this case 20 members do not vote. So overall there are only 520 members that are present and voting. So if I talk about simple majority, in simple majority I'll see more than 50% of this. In special majority, first would be more than 543, because in special majority, we are not seeing present and voting. In special majority, we are seeing the total membership of the House, and total membership of the House is 543. So there should be more than 50% of 543. That is the first condition. Okay. The second condition would be 2/3 of present and voting. How many are present and voting? 520, as I told you. 2/3 of it. So 520 into 2 by 3. That should be the second condition. So whenever we talk about special majority, you have to understand the first is whatever is the total membership of the House, more than 50% of it. And second, whoever are present and voting, they are 2/3, 2 by 3rd. But in simple majority, it was only more than 50%, only more than half. Right? That is the difference between simple majority and special majority. Now here, this is the second method. In this case, ratification by state is not required. What is ratification by state? That means that states are agreeing to this. That is required only when there is a change, there is an amendment in the constitution that is going to affect states also, right? In the federal structure. In that case, we require states to say yes as well. You can remember it like that. But otherwise, special majority is only these two conditions. First, majority of total membership of the House, and second, 2/3 of members present and voting. Both of them should be there, right? Both of them, both these tests must be there. Both these conditions must be fulfilled. For example, if you want to make changes in fundamental rights or DPSP, fundamental duties, union judiciary, or emergency provisions, in all these cases, special majority is required. The third is special majority plus ratification by half of the states. Now, as I told you, this you require when you are trying to bring the change in the federal structure of the constitution. So this is required when whatever change you are bringing will also affect the states. For example, GST. So here, those two conditions must be there for special majority. First, more than 50% of total strength of the House. Second, 2/3 of present and voting, plus the states, half of the states should also say yes. That's what the third method is about. And in this case, as you can see, this is done in election of president, extent of executive power of union and states, Supreme Court, High Courts, distribution of legislative powers, 7th schedule, representation of states in parliament, Article 368 itself. For all these, you require this third method. So there are three methods. The first method is simple majority. Simple majority does not come under Article 368. The second method and third method, they come under Article 368. In Article 368, there is special majority and there is special majority along with ratification by states. Right? So what is the procedure of amendment under Article 368? First, the amendment bill can be introduced in either house of the parliament. Very important. First of all, it is not introduced in state legislature. It can be introduced in either house of the parliament. Second, no prior permission of president is required. President's assent might be required. That we will see now. But before introducing the bill in the parliament, president's assent or president's permission rather is not required. Third, each house must pass it separately. So it's not like if one house has passed and another has not passed, then in that case it will be stuck and there will be a joint sitting. No, that does not happen. There is no joint sitting in case of amendment under Article 368. If one house rejects it, the bill fails. Then if required, half of the state is will be ratifying it, as we have seen that in 368 there can be two conditions. In one condition, half of the states have to say yes. And then president gives assent. Like I said, before introducing the bill, president's permission is not required. But after both the houses have passed it, then president's assent is required. In ordinary bill, president cannot withhold assent. In ordinary bill, president can withhold assent. President can say, oh, I don't want to give my permission. But in Article 368, under Article 368, president cannot withhold assent after the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act 1971. So after this Amendment Act, 24th Constitutional Amendment Act 1971, now president cannot say, oh, I don't want to give my assent. If the bill is passed under Article 368, the president has to say yes. It is mandatory. You can understand it like that. Next, ordinary law. Let's just see the differences first. Here, simple majority is sufficient in ordinary law, as we have seen. President may return the bill. President does not have to say yes. Joint sitting is possible in ordinary bill, in ordinary law, and can be introduced only with ordinary procedure, may affect ordinary law. But in case of constitutional amendment, that is under Article 368, when we talk about special procedure is required, can president return the bill? No, the president cannot return the amendment bill. Then there is no joint sitting provision here. If one house does not pass the bill or rejects the bill fails. Then it can be introduced in either houses, not in the state legislature, and it changes the constitution, as we have already discussed. Now, can parliament amend every part of the constitution? This was a big debate. But in Keshav Nand Bharti case in 1973, it was said that parliament can amend every part of the constitution, every provision of the constitution, the very constitution itself, but it cannot destroy the basic structure, because in Keshav Nand Bharti case, the Supreme Court gave basic structure doctrine. So there are some basic features of the constitution like secularism. Supreme Court said that parliament can change every provision of the constitution, but it cannot destroy the basic structure, basic features of the constitution. That's where the parliament will stop. That's where the line was drawn for parliament to change constitution. What is basic structure doctrine? Now it says that parliament can amend but cannot destroy the identity of the constitution. The basic structures or the basic features of the constitution are the identity of the constitution and they cannot be changed. Now, how do we know what are the basic features of the basic structure? In different court hearings and verdicts, courts have identified several features over time up until now, so far, and it will keep identifying more features in future, such as supremacy of constitution, that constitution is supreme and the parliament cannot change that, rule of law, judicial review, separation of powers, secularism, as I told you, democracy, federalism. All of these are part of basic structure doctrine, the basic features of the constitution that make the identity of our constitution, and they cannot be destroyed according to the basic structure doctrine given in Keshav Nand Bharti case by the Supreme Court. Okay, yes, before we move ahead, I have an announcement for you. So, like most of you were asking, our NCERT course is going on live again tomorrow, and first we will start with geography now. We are done with polity, 9th and 10th standard polity. We'll start with geography now from 6th standard, and this will be 5 p.m. The timings have only changed. It is 5 p.m. now, every day 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, right? And first we'll start with 6th class NCERT for geography. Now we come to the last part of the constitution. I really hope that I have been able to make this whole understanding of constitutional amendment through Article 368 easy, because most of the time students are usually confused between special majority, simple majority, and special majority along with ratification of states. What is the difference and all of that? So I really hope that all of this is clear to you. Now let's solve a question. I will give this question to you as homework. You will answer this question in the comment section below. The question says, with reference to the procedure for amending the Constitution of India under Article 368, consider the following statements. First, a constitutional amendment bill may be introduced in either house of the parliament by a minister or a private member. Second, prior recommendation of the president is necessary before introducing a constitutional amendment bill. Third, if the two houses disagree on a constitutional amendment bill, a joint sitting of parliament may be convened. And fourth, after a constitutional amendment bill is duly passed by the parliament or ratified by the states wherever it is required, the president is bound to give assent. You have to tell me how many of these statements is or are correct. Only one, only two, only three, or all four are correct. Right? So this is something you will answer in the comment section below. I really hope that you enjoyed the lecture and you have understood everything that I was trying to explain. So that's it for today's session. Until the next session, have a great day. Take care.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.